So Super Stylist, which was the predecessor, was really successful. We felt that the niche of female simulation, which is not such a small niche, women are underserved in the App Store. Mostly they're served in puzzles, not in unique female type games. And we had the Super Stylist with the 90-10 demographics, 90% female, 10% male. And we wanted to increase the game to make it much bigger, but we had few problems. Yes, thank you. Okay, so we had problems in a lot of problems in production. Problems you could solve them by amassing huge amount of people, which then makes the game a lot less economical, especially when you try to launch and in the early days. So the game is narrative heavy. So it took around 20 very talented women with a lot of English lit, because you want it to be really, you want to catch the US demographics. I can try. Okay, so this is not the first slide. We'll start off the top. So we had problems, and we'll go how we solve the problem. So this is AI Me. This is the company. 7 billion downloads, 250 million MAU. And our focus on hybrid casual games and on female simulation. Sorry, what? Slideshow. It's not me. I don't have it. It's there. Okay. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to tell you. So what we did. So basically, I divided it into two parts. On the marketing part, everyone is using, of course, AI. Let's call it a pure upside, because marketing was not what held us back on Super Stylist, but we did made a huge leap. And obviously, AI today is generating, and by the way, some people are already complaining about it because the tone and everything starts looking the same, like LinkedIn posts with the super hyphenator, so you know that it's perfect English is coming from ChatGPT, and people want some authenticity. But marketing, very easy to create a lot of things, icons. It's just an example of a user acquisition video that was hugely successful. By the way, in Glow, we support more than 5 body types, a lot of different attributes of women. We look at it as real a women game, and not as a, sorry, I don't want to insult Barbie, but not one size, one look, one attribution. So these videos were created, and a lot of marketing assets that were really, really hard to create before. It took a huge team of motion designers and video editors and captures a little bit, because this is just how it looks, but behind the scenes. So using 2 models, one model to create with the assets that we have in the game. So we're getting the assets ready. We can choose out of the 5 or out of however we want. And then basically using that character, we have another AI network that turns it into a video. And obviously I showed you the end result. It takes some training and tweaking around with it. But amazingly today you can do in media and in art and in video, real magic. By the way, it's not coming out of thin air, but just using, I know, Sora is great and Veo is great, but you have to work at it. Usually you don't get it right. You get sometimes 30%, sometimes 80%. And to get to the 100%, you need, so to get to the 100%, you need a lot of work. Play. Okay. Okay, so moving forward. So one of the things we're working on now, and it's I will play it in the back so I can talk. It's a playable editor. So obviously playables and videos are most of the assets that are used in user acquisition, and having the ability to really dynamically experiment and check using the game and using AI, different assets and different ways to explore how you can really use generate playables that are completely different playables that not versions just change the background into pink, or have a different ending or different, because you can obviously segment these, but create a lot of experiences using a playables generator that understands the game, has an access to the code and to the assets, and then it can generate a lot of really great stuff. So basically, I mean, one way to look at it is how we can save on getting top quality production and saving a lot of assets. The other way around that I prefer to look at it usually is to say that with the team that we have for Glow, we could have created a lot less asset experiments, and that would have resulted probably in a much lower success. And also going forward, we see that these tools and our abilities are getting better and better. So we expect that our capability with the same team, with the same creative, as long as we keep to the authenticity and keeping to the game and not making just artificial things for the sake of generation, I think we're going to even go much better. The second part, which I started telling you about the Super Stylist, was production. Production in big games is production heavy. The team is already 40 people, so not 5, not 10. I know that other companies have hundreds sometimes, but hundreds make it very hard to fly the game when you need big margins, a lot of scale, and especially when you want to start launching, you want to hedge your investment and try to get a feel of the market early on. So the 20 people I told you we needed for a Super Stylist is in Glow is reduced to 1, an overarching narrative expert that is like a team lead of 20 agents that are writing the narrative. Writing narrative is not that simple. I know you write with ChatGPT or whatever, you can generate a ton of words related or unrelated, better English, worse English. But when you want to create a story that is interesting, that keeps the same storyline and keeps the same language, this is not as simple. We needed to create a specific GPTs. We need to load into the RAG all the segments of the story so it keeps consistent. So it's not reinventing the wheel, but it takes accuracy, and you need to know what you're doing to get to the right result. We know that we're at the right result because the users are happy about the quality of the narrative that they're getting. Game localization. So localization is usually something that you use to shove into some operation group, and then you have translator and people to validate them, and then again people to validate them. And at the end, in some magical way, we usually didn't get the same quality or even close, even with all the steps that we've created. So here, with another approach, taking the narrative that works in English, having someone that is an expert in the language and in the story, train over, so we have missions, the narrative pieces are called missions. So we trained 1,000 missions to get to 99% accuracy from 70%, which obviously is not a fun game. If only 70% of the texts are okay, then you're not going to pay for this game. So we got to 99% accuracy by training on 1,000 missions. So it's not 5, it's not 10, 1,000 missions out of thousands of missions, tens of thousands of missions, to get to the level of accuracy that we wanted. And it makes our life a lot easier now in pushing the translation. By the way, another big upside is that it's aware of the size. We know how to, so it saves a lot on QA later and a lot of other things. This narrative and narrative translation are huge gains to the game. So big ability to push much more narrative, many more missions. We saw, for example, the top 1%, the whales, they consume around 500 missions a month, as opposed to top 10%, 250 missions, and the average player consumes less. But you need to target the top 1%. They are the payers, they are the ones that are most engaged. So if you don't create enough content, you're going to lose the big purpose that you're buying the best users and you cannot serve them. So this has been really critical. This is a 3D game. There are a lot of fashion games that are 2D. 3D is more complicated, and still the tools AI around 3D are more cumbersome with the polygons, with the quality, with what they can do, what they can't do. We still have a team of around 15 3D artists that are doing, a lot of them are doing content for the game because it's a content-heavy game. There's a content treadmill. We need to create constantly collections. This is what the users want to consume, collections of beautiful clothes, dresses. what have you. We have been able to insert, by the way, very gradually, and we needed to insist on how the team starts using AI because, for example, in 3D and in many other cases that we see, the initial value is relatively low, 5%, 10%. And then they say, oh, it's just a headache for 5, 10%, I'm not going to use it. And we had to insist. Why we insisted? Because it's obvious that with how AI moves, it moves with every version. It's not using, I know, Adobe of the past version, and 1 year later came a few more features. It's constantly evolving. We get better at it, the LLMs, the tools. So, and we saw right now we're at benchmarking, I think at around 30%, 35% of efficiency, but a lot of pieces of the puzzle. So overall, we got 35% better. So the 15 people are doing work of 20 something, which is really critical. And we're getting better in that. One of the most important thing, analytics. So this is a external system used by a company called ClarityQ. But when you look at the amount of analysts and how hard it's to get good analysts and who you want to look at the data. So when I look at the data, so obviously I have some tableaus with 1,000 rows and it takes a lot of time to load, but I'd rather just talk to my data and relatively easily get an insight into what's in the data and very easily say, okay, let's look at the players of day 30 that spent over $1. I want to segment it by usage. Now let's go to day 3. Let's look at the same users and now see what was their user journey. Now, usually, and I would need an army of analysts just to do the same exercise because it takes a report and another look at the raw data and another thing. So everything that is predefined, the reports that give me the key KPIs, yeah, that works fine. But anything dynamic you want to do around investigation, on a new feature, on a new campaign, on new cohorts of users coming, and you want to see how they behave, is very, very hard. And this is really allowing us and helping us to become much more agile, allowing game owners to be more efficient. And this is very... I need to pre-play it again. Okay. Okay, now we can move. We call it Pro Tools, but this is not exactly AI. It's the use of Replit and whatever, Base 44 if you want to root for Wix. And so amazing tools that just allow you, where you spend a lot of time on all these front-end, back-end tools with an army of people at the phase where the game is succeeding, because in the beginning you're just putting everything in Google Sheets. And so this is, by the way, this is an example of a comparison between two versions. So because in huge code bases, when you have new version, you want to really validate what's in your code base. So we created this AI that you give it any two version, and it creates humanly readable feature list of what you can expect that is different between the two versions. And by the way, it's really good for QA, it's really good for validation. You forgot to commit something, didn't overcommit something into the Git. So this is just one power tool. Another pro tool that obviously everyone knows about, the configuration tools, that you have huge amount of things you want to configure in your game, missions, live ops, the economy, the translation. So you start off with a Google Sheet because in the beginning you don't know if the game is going to be successful. You just want to spend as low as possible on that. But then when you need to manage it, it becomes hugely complicated. There are no relationship, no validations. And then the big advantage is today, take a Google Sheet. Yeah. You reverse the relationship with Claude agents, for example, and then you can create the instruction and the construction to start building what we call the Pro Tools that allow us to configure the game in a much easier way with a lot of validation rule, a lot of metadata, and a lot of other things. Support, obviously, is an easy getaway. So collecting all the support with, by the way, KPIs about meeting the store listing rating and with the social groups. So translating everything, bringing it into one knowledge base, aggregating all the results to understand the impact, and then obviously creating insights out of the aggregation. So we are able to try and take action By the way, some of the feedbacks from users will be misdirections because you have users that are extreme or unique. So you need to obviously validate that, like I said, with the analytics tool, but it creates a hypothesis and things. Some of the users we feel, for example, in Glow, the big push that the users gave us is towards more PvP, more social, that we're now 2026. And the end of this year, they're going to get a lot more in PvP, in real PvP, in online competitions, in a lot of friends activities, a lot of the kind of Roblox type activities. And this was requested and feedback by a lot of users, core users, and we validated it with the focus groups that we have with the top users. And this is now a big part of what we're going to do in 2026. So kind of all in all, if you use the sum of tools and you deploy it systematically, you can get huge gains. You get into critical mass. So if you use one thing only for marketing, only for, I know, the icons, only for this, you need a program. This is why, by the way, these 3 people that are taking pictures are AI program people. So Ella, that is involved a lot with the art, and Nir, who's heading our AI, and Denise, who came to do all the great things with Playable and create our approach into what we call native AI. So you can give the existing teams the use of AI tools. And this is great, by the way. This is what we've been doing for 2 years already. But when you want to change pace, you want to change the way of thinking, because a lot of people are users. So they will use tools and they will continue using them. But with AI, you need to keep experimenting. You need to keep evolving the tools, and you need to create an environment in which people are AI first, or whatever you want to call it. We call it native AI. So Denise is leading our first native AI team within marketing, creating playables, creating videos. And we already see the difference in approach and the way we generate things once you have a native AI team. So summary, we have a team of 40. We believe that on production quality, marketing quality, we do 2.5 times, by the way, which is nice. Probably it will get better. Much better assets, specifically for the collections. Overall, it only saves us 35%. Narratives, and a lot of dashboards and analytics and tools that we can leverage in order to improve the game. So this is the kind of core thing in a kind of a Gartner's hype of... So unlike a lot of eras where, I know, SaaS, whatever, you had that, it was hyped, then it went down, then you needed maturity of the tools. So there was a hype, there is still hype in certain areas of AI, but the tools are improving on a monthly basis. So it's not a yearly thing. And when you look at the whole area of tools, let's say, I don't know, video creation. So yeah, maybe one tool is getting a release every 2 months, but then the other is doing a release in between, and you're actually moving very, very fast. This is why if you don't push your teams to actually use it, even though in the beginning it's annoying, it has hallucinations, you need to think differently. It only gets you there in the beginning, maybe 5-10%. So why use it? Let's use the things that we know. If you use the things that you know, you're going to lose your ability to move forward, your ability to enjoy the spike. So in a lot of cases, new technologies, people will just tell you, wait, it's going to hype, and then early adopters, and then it's going to go down. And then when it matures, you are good to go. I think with AI, this is not the approach if you want to be competitive, if you want to really stay on top. And I think that's, I have maybe even 1 minute, no? So you want to write, you want to know more, you can write. I usually answer within a good interval, but if you're a lot of things, then I will need to use my AI agent to help me. But thank you very much.